Hey guys, what's going on? Brandon Lee with Virtualization How To. Hope everyone is doing well, and I have a storage episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the iSCSI protocol. iSCSI? I've always heard iSCSI. If you're like me, you cut your teeth in the enterprise data center environment on a virtualization platform such as VMware vSphere or Microsoft Hyper-V attached to shared storage that was either, at that time, several years ago, Fiber Channel or iSCSI. We have so many awesome virtual machine or virtual appliances, virtual storage appliances to be more specific, that we can easily spin up in a hypervisor environment. Today I'm going to introduce you to what I have found to be the simplest and easiest appliance that I have been able to find for home lab purposes to play around with the iSCSI storage protocol. So stick around, let's take a look. The solution we're referring to is the StarWind SAN and NAS virtual appliance. It's actually a virtual storage appliance that is easily downloaded from StarWind. You deploy this for a VMware vSphere environment. It is made available as an OVF appliance. However, you can deploy it on top of VMware ESXi or Microsoft Hyper-V. And what's really cool is it uses all industry standard building blocks for enterprise storage that we're all familiar with. First off, it's built on top of Linux. It uses the ZFS file system and StarWind Virtual SAN. It also uses storage protocols that we all are familiar with and work with in the enterprise. And that includes SMB3, NFS v3, v4, 4.1, as well as iSCSI. You can even run vVols on iSCSI or NVMe over Fabric. Now, users can also choose different redundancy configurations with the StarWind solution, including hardware RAID, Linux RAID, high availability, fault tolerance features such as mirroring. So I have downloaded the StarWind SAN and NAS virtual appliance, and we're going to step through how to deploy the virtual appliance, set up storage, and then I'm going to show you guys a really cool process of how we can provision an iSCSI target existing on the StarWind SAN and NAS appliance in a Windows failover cluster. So let's dive right in. The first step that we are going to accomplish is to deploy the StarWind SAN and NAS virtual appliance in our VMware vSphere cluster. As you can see, I'm logged into VMware vSphere. I have the data center and cluster, the target cluster that I want to deploy the appliance into. And this is a standard deployment if you've ever deployed an OVA/OVF appliance in VMware vSphere. It all works equally the same. So we're going to select the option Deploy OVF Template. I'm going to select a local file. So I've already downloaded the StarWind SAN and NAS appliance. And we're going to say upload files. We're going to navigate to the files for the OVF installation. We're going to select all of those and click open. As you can see, we have the 4 files showing as the selected OVF template. Next, we're going to simply name the virtual appliance, and I am just going to leave the default of StarWind SAN and NAS. We're going to leave our data center selected, click next, and we're going to select a compute resource, leave that as default. And now we've come to review the initial deployment details, so we can just simply click next here. Now we're going to select storage. I'm going to select the VMware vSAN data store that I have in this lab environment cluster. And you have the option to select a management network as well as a data network. And we're going to see how that works a bit better once we get into and have the StarWind SAN and NAS appliance deployed. For the purposes of this video, I'm simply leaving both of these networks attached to the same network. I'm going to click Next. It's really important on the customized template screen that we get the information populated correctly, such as IP address information. So you want to pay close attention to the values that you input on this screen. Finally, we reached the Ready to Complete screen. So we're going to simply click Finish. And that's it for this part of the deployment. The appliance will deploy in VMware vSphere using the typical OVA/OVF appliance deployment process. So once this is finished deploying, we will power on the virtual machine and browse out to the web interface. Okay, so the virtual machine deployed successfully. I have powered on the VM and I have now browsed out to the web interface port 8643, which is the default port for managing the StarWind SAN and NAS appliance. What you will find is you will be presented with what is displayed as a first run wizard. You go through a very easy workflow to establish some basic configuration, set up storage, and essentially at that point have a iSCSI LUN that is ready to be connected to from any type of device. So let's go through this wizard and see what it looks like. First, we have just a simple welcome screen. We're going to click Next. So the license file will be emailed to you when you sign up on the form to download the solution. So I'm going to simply upload the file. I'm going to browse out, select the license file. We're going to click Next. We're going to accept the EULA. And we're going to establish a password for the default user. Now, one small quirk I have found about this, the administrator user is simply called user. So don't think admin, don't think administrator. And that always trips me up when I go to the web interface. So your username is simply user, and you cannot change that, at least on this screen. We want to add an additional virtual disk to the virtual machine. When you initially deploy the solution, it does not pre-configure a disk that will be used for general purpose storage. So let's go back over to vSphere and let's simply add a new hard disk. We're going to say add new device, hard disk, and let's give it a 50 gig disk. And of course, we're going to accept the defaults here. And now we can go back out to the web interface. We can click Rescan Storage. And as you note, we didn't have to power down the appliance. We didn't have to shut everything down, add the disk, then power back up. And we now successfully see the disks attached, which is what we want to see. So we're going to click Next. We're going to now set up a storage pool. So I'm going to just call this Test Pool. I'm going to select this as manual layout since I know this is just a simple disk that I'm using for a lab environment. I'm going to drop this down and I'm just going to use a RAID 0, which gives a little bit more space in this particular configuration. Now, if we scroll down, we will see our disk. So we want to select that disk, scroll down further. And this was one part that tripped me up the first time I went through it. It's not apparent that you need to continue to scroll down. And I was wondering, why do I not have the ability to click Next? Keep on scrolling down and you will see the Validate Layout or the Validate Disk Layout button. We're going to click that. You can configure a hot spare. I don't have that in this configuration, so we're just going to simply say Next, Test Disk 01. And you see it's using the test pool. Notice the available size is 45 gigs. We've got a little bit of overhead there, so I'm just going to simply make this a 40 gig LUN. So we're going to click Next. I have simply one adapter that I have configured with an IP address. Remember, we saw the two. You can segment your traffic, which definitely you want to do for production type purposes. Here I'm simply just using a single adapter. I'm going to select that and we get to the summary screen. We're going to click Next. And at this point, the installation of the solution begins. It's going to start configuring the storage. It's going to apply the changes. And then shortly thereafter, we will see the ability to direct us to log back into the dashboard interface. The configuration wizard or first run wizard completed successfully. So now I have logged into the dashboard and I have navigated to storage and manage virtual disks. That's really cool to see that out of the first run wizard, we have a test disk already configured, we have it online, and we have an iSCSI LUN or iSCSI target that is already available. That is awesome, because what this means is we right now can take any solution that can target an iSCSI LUN. Let's see how this is done in Windows failover cluster servers. So now I am remoted into one of the Hyper-V Windows Server failover cluster hosts that I want to enable shared storage between this host and another Hyper-V Windows failover cluster server host going into this StarWind SAN and NAS appliance, this iSCSI target that we have configured. To do that, it's quite easy. We're going to launch the iSCSI configuration. And as you note, Microsoft Windows, and this is Windows Server 2022, it will give you the message that the Microsoft iSCSI service is not running, and do you want to enable it to always start as an automatic service? And we want to say yes. And this will launch the iSCSI initiator property screen. Here in the target screen, we're going to enter in the iSCSI target on the StarWind SAN and NAS appliance. Well, after entering the IP address of the iSCSI target, I'm going to use the Quick Connect feature. And as you can see, Microsoft Windows automatically discovers the iSCSI LUN that is running on the StarWind SAN and NAS appliance, and it has already connected. And then we're going to navigate to the volumes and devices, and we're going to click the auto configure button. After clicking the auto configure button, as you can see, the volume, mount point, and device has been populated with the target iSCSI LUN device ID. And we're going to launch disk management. After launching disk management, we're going to notice that we have a very positive sign here. We have a new disk that has not been initialized. So we're going to initialize the disk. First of all, we're going to online the disk. Then we're going to initialize the disk. And we're going to select GPT. We're going to click OK. And we're going to create a new simple volume. Select Next. We're going to assign a drive letter. And we're going to click Next and Finish. Now, all I have left to do is on the remaining failover cluster hosts is to present this same configuration using the same steps that we went through on this server on the subsequent Windows failover cluster hosts. So what do you think about this, guys? I think it's super awesome to just in a few minutes have a fully functional iSCSI LUN without a lot of complexity. And I love this as it allows in the home lab environment playing around with creating an iSCSI data store, working with Hyper-V clusters, and even other use cases for learning and for running services in the home lab. Let me know in the comments what you guys are using in your home lab environments to test and play around with awesome storage protocols like iSCSI. Well, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys very soon.